We are going to be having a quiz pretty soon on comparing the initial amount and rate of change of various mathematical situations. So first we're going to have a little mini review on how to find the initial amount and rate of change. And we're going to focus on 4 different kinds of mathematical situations. We're going to focus on equations, graphs, tables, and verbal descriptions. So as you can see from the title, this is a review. This is not meant to be teaching you. If you need something more in depth, please see me so that I can help you out. This is just if you need a little refresher from class. So the first one we're going to look at are equations. And we are going to remember from class, I hope anyway, that for now, there are other ways to do it, but we are going to use the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And hopefully we remember from class that m stands for slope, but it can also stand for rate of change. Remember, those are 2 ways of saying exactly the same thing. That doesn't look like a very good change. Sorry about that. And then B stands for either the y-intercept, or another way of saying it is the initial amount. Again, 2 different ways of saying exactly the same thing. In an equation, it's called slope-intercept form for a reason, because traditionally it does have the slope first and then the y-intercept second. Y equals mx plus b. So m, the slope, is right there, the coefficient in front of the x. So the rate of change slash slope is -2. And then the y-intercept slash initial amount is right there, our b, which will give us a 7. Our second example is going to involve finding a graph. And first of all, the rate of change slash slope. We've been doing this for a minute now. Remember that we define it as our change in our y value over our change in our x value. I am abbreviating the word change, obviously, with a CH. And the way that we've done it in class is that we've just picked a couple coordinates that are a nice fit, because they hit right there in the corners. Draw our imaginary right triangle and figure out what our change in y is. So I'm looking at my change in y. Remember, the y is the up and down. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at my scale and I can tell, because there's no numbers, I'm going to assume that each one of these is equal to 1. So my change in my y up and down is a 3. And then my change in my x values going across is a 1. I can also tell, because the graph is moving upwards as I move from left to right, that this is a positive sloping graph. So my change in y is a 3. My change in x is a 1, which simplifies to a 3. And it's a positive 3 because the graph is sloping upwards. The y-intercept slash initial amount is whatever I'm going to find. It's right where the graph hits the y-axis. The graph, okay, so keep in mind, this is the graph. So, I'm going to stop right there, because that is where the graph hits the y-axis. So let me figure out exactly where that is. If I'm counting up from 0, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. That is a positive 4. That is right there where it hits the y-axis. So the y-intercept slash initial amount, remember they're the same thing, guys, is going to be positive 4. Now for a table. Now, even though we were doing a graph before and now we're doing a table, the idea is still the same. We're still going to find our change in our y and put it over our change in our x. So I'm looking, and the change in my y value from 5 to 9, that's a positive 4. So my top value is going to be a 4. From 0 to 2, that is a 2. So my bottom value is going to be a 2. 4 divided by 2 simplifies to a positive 2. So my rate of change slash slope is a positive 2. Remember that your y-intercept and initial amount is your y-intercept. It's wherever the collection of points that you have hits the y-axis. And if I look right here where x is equal to 0, that is going to tell me that there is a coordinate right here at 0, 5. So the first coordinate, the x-coordinate, is a 0. So that means I'm not going to move left or right, but I am going to move up 5 to represent that coordinate of a 5. So that tells me right there, because I have that point 0, 5, that's going to tell me that the y-intercept or initial amount is 5 for this particular table. Last but not least, a mathematical situation that is described verbally. And I personally think this is definitely the easiest one. So Raymond is getting a job to save up for a car. He currently has $1,150 in his bank account. His job will pay him $600 each week. So first of all, this is what he is starting with. He is starting with this $1,150. So y-intercept initial amount, where's your initial in your name? It's at the beginning. Initial amount is what you have at the very beginning. So his initial amount is $1,150. Rate of change / slope means how much is it changing. So my rate of change every week, his pay or the money he has increases by $600 per week. So the rate of change is 600.